All right, yo, we're gonna do one of my family favorites, spaghetti and meatballs. Bear with me, this is my first voiceover, so might not be perfect. But anyways, here we go. So what I did first is I got, my milk with my breadcrumbs, let that bad boy soak it all up. Then while that was soaking up, I put my spice mix into the mix of the ground beef, added my breadcrumbs, and now I'm working it through, right? Getting it all incorporated. It should take you about, 4 or 5 minutes or so, or a little bit less. I like to really take my time so that way the spices are nice and mixed up. So that way when you taste that meatball, you get a really nice flavor of all the spices. Secondly, I gotta bind this bad boy, right? So we take, an egg. You can do 1 or 2 eggs, up to you. The bread usually does a lot of the work, so getting the egg in there is gonna help it bind better. So I take the egg, whisk it with a fork or with a whisk, your preference. But you get a little bit of that omelet action, right? Once it's in there, go ahead and do a little crater in the middle, pour it in there, and then get it all mixed up. Again, a couple of minutes. Once you're happy with it, wearing gloves and ground beef, usually it's best to kind of wet your hand. It won't stick to it, but honestly, it's not the end of the world. Now, I like using the scooper. This is a 2-ounce scooper, which means that every meatball is going to be 2 ounces. In this case, I'm doing about 2 pounds of beef. So, it's going to give me roughly about anywhere between 12 to 14 meatballs. You could go smaller if you want. You could do 1 ounce to if you have a larger family. My boys like to, they like to eat 2 to 3 meatballs per serving. It's just enough for all of us, right? We're a family of 5. Once it's all done, then you take each little meatball and you roll it, right? You roll it so it could be nice and compacted. Up to you how delicate you want to be with them, or how round you want them to look. I like doing them in a way where it's just rustic. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and saute my onions and garlic. You can use a shallot if you want, but I'm going onions, right? So we're sweating them, getting them nice and sweat, translucent. I prepped a little bit ahead, so pretty soon you're gonna see me add my tomato sauce. I usually do, 1 jar of marinara if I'm not making it from scratch. But in this case, I'm actually doing 1 jar of marinara, and I also take some San Marzano tomatoes, blend those bad boys, and that's what you see right now, right? Once my onions and garlic is all nice and translucent, I go ahead and add my tomatoes just so they can start cooking. At the same time, you didn't catch it, right? A little bit of flash movement going on, but if you look at it, I've actually put my meatballs on the other side. Get those nice and brown. I don't want to cook them all the way, because what I just want that Maillard effect on the browning of the beef with the salt, right? So, getting those nice and brown. Now I'm going ahead and add you could do marinara, you can do, spicy marinara, you can do whichever pasta sauce that you like, you can go ahead and do. Or you can just do straight up San Marzano tomatoes, onion, garlic, whatever spices you want. In this case, I like to keep it pretty simple, right? That's the way my boys like it. Anyways, so letting that sauce cook down a little bit. But what I do want is, once my meatballs are to the color that I want them, I'm just gonna go ahead and transfer them over to the sauce and let them cook there. You'll see that in a minute. So, this is my first channel that I'm doing, as I upload more videos. And if you guys have any suggestions on things that you would like for me to, make or cook, I don't shy away from anything, right? Anything that you feel like, hey, I like to see the style, how you make it. Hey, we all learn from each other, right? But anyways, so back to the meatballs, right? So you see that nice color around them, but a lot of them are not fully cooked, and they shouldn't be, right? Because they're gonna finish cooking in the sauce. The meatballs are in the sauce, they're gonna start to simmer, and they're gonna cook down, and they're gonna release all that juice in there, and they're gonna flavor your sauce. So as you can tell, I'm putting my second batch of meatballs on the other side, right? I'm doing the same thing. I have my sauce on, you know, just simmering. You can see a very light bubble on the edges. That's just to let you know that, you know, they're chilling. They're in a jacuzzi. They're loving life, you know. So honestly, this is the best way to cook, man. You're gonna have amazing aroma going out throughout your house. You got, you know, this is like cooking with love, right? All right, just to give you a better look, at this point, my water's been boiling. That water's been boiling. You know, while you're doing all this, if you're busy, you got a family, you work, this is the way to do it, right? You have to multitask. I have my water boiling, throw in my pasta. That's gonna take about, you know, depending on how you like it. If you like it al dente, it'll be anywhere 8 to 9 minutes. If you want it a little bit more cooked, maybe 10 to 12 minutes. Anything past that is gonna be mush, right? Anyways, so my water actually had oil and salt. So just like you would cook any pasta. So as you can tell, the rest of my meatballs got the color that I want. They're also going into the jacuzzi, right? That meat sauce is gonna taste delicious when you get all those flavors that are gonna transfer from the caramelization of the meat that you have on the meatballs into the sauce. That's what you want, right? So at this point, you know, I'm just gonna let these bad boys cook in here, right? They're gonna chill in there. They're gonna cook for, I don't know, maybe a good, as long as you want, as long as you have it at a low heat. You know, those meatballs ain't gonna dry out. What you did with the bread and the milk and all of that is gonna give it that airiness that you want, right? They're gonna be light meatballs. My spaghetti is just about done. Gonna go ahead and drain that. Right now, you'll see right here, this is a good way to get a nice facial. Boom, there you go, look at that. That's it, that's what you want, right?
That's what you're doing right now.
All right, now here we are. We're getting our spaghetti nice and lubricated, right? So that way it won't stick. You wanna get those spaghetti's nice and mixed up. Toss it around. We'll get that oil incorporated. You know, one of the things is you don't want is taking all this effort into cooking and prepping and all that, and then you forget to do this and your spaghetti's all stuck into one ball. At this point, checking out our meatballs. They're right at the point where I like them. You know, you can go ahead and take one out, taste it if you want. I know they're good to go at this point, right? You know, giving it one last stir, making sure they're good. All right, here we go. Now it's time to plate, right? Get you a nice little plate. You can arrange the noodles however you want. You know, sometimes I get really fancy with it. In this case, I'm just gonna go ahead and, you know, make a little mountain spaghetti. Put a little bit more for good measure. Here we go. It's all up to you. You can over sauce it, under sauce it, however you like. This is the beauty of it, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and take, you know, some of that nice sauce, all that flavor, pour it right in the middle. Let it drip right in the middle, right? 2 scoops. Boom. At this point, I'm just gonna crown it with 1 meatball, right? Here we go, it's about to get knighted. Here we go. Get that close up. Your meatball's ready to go. I didn't like that one. Pick a better one. Boom. That's the winner right there. Center it. That spaghetti is gonna sit on there like a nice little nest. More sauce. That sauce, I'm telling you, man, that sauce is gonna be killer no matter where you serve it. You can top it off with some Parmesan, some pecorino, cheese of your choice. Shoot, you can even do some mozzarella. Anyways, but here's a close-up. My kids love this meal. You know, that's why I do this. It's very rewarding. Makes me feel great. Thank you, guys.